So I'm determined this year that I'm going to be completely self-sufficient in potatoes. I've always done potatoes, but this year I'm doing on a scale that I haven't done before. So I've already got 10 kilos of second earlies in, and today I'm going to start getting my Desiree main crops in. They've been chitting for about 6 weeks, and they've got nice strong chits on them. I've got 25 kilos of these, and I'm basically going to be doing them in containers, which I'm going to show you in a second. I've got a big pile of compost just over here, which I put aside specifically for my potato containers. I'm going to do as many containers as I can fill, and when I run out of compost, the rest of them will go in the ground. My potato patch has all been tilled over last weekend by my mate, and it's ready to start getting them in. So let's get on with it. Right, so we're literally right at the end of April. It's 1st of May tomorrow. I leave doing my potatoes this late purely because I've had so many years where I've had very late frosts, end of May, even the first week in June. And after seeing the results I get, it knocks the foliage back. You do still get a harvest, but I think the harvest always tends to be a bit smaller, a few less potatoes, and they seem to be a bit smaller. So what I've just decided to do the last 2 or 3 years really that I've done potatoes is just to leave it a bit later, 2 or 3 weeks later than perhaps would be considered the average. And I think that's just a better option for me, because I think they catch up. If you plant them a bit later, they catch up quicker once the weather's nice and warm than they do recover from getting knocked back by frost. I just think it's a better option to put them in a bit later. So that's what I do anyway. So my second earlies I got in last week. I'm doing 2 beds of those, and I've done half a dozen buckets. These are 30 litre buckets. I've got 30 new ones and probably about 30 old ones. With first and second earlies, I would do 4 per bucket, 2 about 4 inches up, 2 about another 4 inches up the other way round. And with main crops, I'm going to just do 2 per bucket, about 4 inches from the bottom. And they will grow potatoes as they grow all the way up off of the main stem. So the plan is, the way I'm going to do these is basically I just use my scoop and I put about 5 scoops in. And that gives me about 4 inches in the bottom. And this is just basic homemade compost. This whole pile I've fluffed it up with the tiller, and I've put it to one side specifically for my potato containers. So I'll just get 2 potatoes. I'm just putting them one either side of the bucket. Oh, actually, what I do first, sorry, I'm forgetting. One little handful, just a little handful like that, of bloodfish and bone, and just mix that into the bottom. Then I put my potatoes in, and I'll just cover those over with about 3 scoops. And then I've been harvesting my vermicompost, and I've got plenty more outside. I've got my outdoor bed that I'm finishing off. I've still got quite a bit out there to use, so I've got plenty of vermicompost. And I'm just putting 2 scoops of vermicompost in. A bit more compost with that. And then 1 more handful of bloodfish and bone, just a small one again, in there. And just mix that in. And then just top it up with homemade compost. All the way to pretty much just down from the top. And then all I'm doing then is just getting 1 handful of organic chicken manure pellets and just working them just into the top there. And that is all the feed that they're going to get in the bucket right from the start. What I will do later on in the season, because I'm going to have a drip system, one off of my solar power. So basically I'm going to put these in 2 rows, so 2 buckets side by side, so I can run a hose up and down, and then I'll have a little gap and another 2 rows, or see how many buckets I'm going to get. And I'm just going to put a little dripper into each bucket, and that will pump out of one of my tanks here. I've got some different size tanks. I've got a 200 litre tank that I've cut the whole top off. I'll probably use that and just put comfrey feeds and whatever feeds I want to use, but if I use comfrey, it's got a bit more potassium in it, which potatoes love. So I'll probably use some liquid feeds comfrey through the summer, especially when they're sort of flowering, and that's when the tubers are swelling. But you know, perhaps every couple of weeks I'll give them a bit of a feed with a comfrey feed, and that's all they're going to get. So it'd just be interesting to see how they do. Hopefully that'll be enough. But got to get these out now. I've got dozens of them to do, so I'm going to crack on and get these all out and lined up. So it's been a long afternoon. I've filled up every bucket I had, all my new 30s and any others of my old ones that are anywhere between 30 and 50 litres. So they're all filled and out there, and I'll show you that in a second. But I was just really surprised. I was expecting to get between 40 and 50 buckets and run out of compost. Well, I've done 60, and a fair few of them are bigger than 30 litres as well, sort of 35s, 40s, I think, and a few 50s. And I've still got about a cubic metre of compost left. So yeah, really surprised. I thought I was going to use a lot more than that. But I'll show you what I've done now. Right, so I've put 3 rows of 20 pots. These are all my 30 litres. I think there's a few 35s at the end, and these are all the larger ones that are 35s, 40s, and a few 50s up that other end there. So what I'm doing now is I'm just tipping out some wood chip. This is all fresh wood chip from this last winter just gone. So where these pots are now, it was all a plastic sheet, and I used to grow my trees and cuttings and things on there, and I did do my potatoes in pots on the plastic last year. But what I decided to do this year was take the plastic up. It's been down for a couple of years, so I've got a few weed seeds popping up already, but the actual bindweed and stuff was all gone. This area was covered in bindweed. It was terrible. So I've taken that up, and I'm going to wood chip it nice and deep, 2 or 3 inches, all around the pots and up to the pots. So basically I'm going to sort of push it right in between them, and just with a view to this sort of helping to keep a bit of moisture around the holes in the bottom of the pots, so that if they want to throw roots out in particularly hot weather, they can. But it will also help to sort of keep the pot slightly cooler maybe in the heat. And what I'll do is I'll get a little trug and fill it, and tip a bit in between to get in the gaps as well. But yeah, just trying to go up the pots about like that, really, just around them, and that should just help to keep them a bit moist and a bit cool. So the next job, tomorrow I shall get the rest of the potatoes in. I think that this did about half, I think, of the trying to think now. Yeah, I had eight trays full when I was chitting them of the Desiree, and I think I've just used 4, so I've got another 4 trays to go in the old potato patch, which has all been tilled. So this is about 12.5 kilos in over 60 pots, 2 per pot. So the next job here, which after I've planted my potatoes tomorrow, I'll get onto, is to get the automatic watering system set up. When I say automatic, I'm not going to have it on a timer, leaving my inverter on, because obviously that'll drain the battery. And that, the idea just being that I don't have to actually water these myself. So I'm going to set my pump up to the inverter and have it so that I can just come down, press the on switch, and it will just drip feed these, drip water these, and I can go off and feed the animals and do a bit of weeding, whatever. And I can, if I measure how many litres, you know, in 10 minutes or something comes out the drippers, and they are adjustable from drip to little sort of sprays. I'll show them when I set it up. So I'll adjust them to do a set amount in sort of 10 or 20 minutes that I know will soak the pots right through. So yeah, I've got to get that set up and offer that as well. So I'll go up and down with a hose, and I'm just going to use old garden hose. I've got quite a lot of that knocking about, and the fittings that I've got, they're like a pointed fitting, so they push in. If you use them with the black PDE pipe, I think it is. You can just use a bradawl. Well, I've experimented with normal garden hose, and it actually works better if I use a little drill bit. I think it's about a 2 or 3 mil drill bit, and just drill a little hole. They actually push in a bit better, so I'm going to do that and go along and just put one per pot, and get all that set up. But yeah, so off the end as well, when I finish that, I'm going to run a spur, and I've got a couple of rolls of this stuff here, which I'll just show you. This is just soaker hose, so it's like a perforated hose, and I got a couple of these off an old boy I did a job for, so I think I've got about 50 meters of that. But what I'm going to do with that is just run that up and down my bean arch, which is just behind the camera here, after these potatoes, so that the watering system will water all these pots and my bean arch. And I'm also doing my tomatoes in the center of the bean arch as well this year, so I'll run it up and down so it does all of them, so that whole lot will be watered just by the flick of a switch, which will just save me a bit of work, you know, every day coming down here and watering these by hand. It just, you know, 60 pots, and I've got 6 pots there which I've got my second orders in, so I've got 66 pots of potatoes and various other pots with blueberries and things in, so it's just cutting down on that watering. But yeah, hopefully they'll do well here. They get the full sun all day. The only other thing I have got to do is just figure out some way of holding the foliage up a bit, because last year with my pots I just ran them this way in lines, and they all kind of flopped a little bit, and some of the foliage flopped over the edge and snapped. So what I'm going to do is either use wooden posts, which I have got a few knocking about, but I've also got a lot of these, I haven't got any here, but like the temporary stakes that builders use for the orange boundary fence things. They're about this high, so I could knock them in perhaps a foot and just tie some strings around, but we'll see. I'll think about that as they're coming up. But I'll definitely have to run some strings around, because that's something that definitely last year was a bit of a problem. The foliage all snapping, and sort of just getting in the way for getting up and down and checking everything. So yeah, I'll do that at another point. I just want to get them in and sorted now. But I'm going to crack on with this wood chipping anyway, and then tomorrow I'll show you the potato patch and getting the rest of the potatoes in there. So I've got 4 rows in this morning already. Beautiful day today. It's nearly 20 degrees, I think. So I've got full length rows in. I'm just into this last sort of little tapering corner bit now, so I should get another 1, 2, 3, but they're getting shorter and shorter. But I've just got this last about 2/3 of a tray of the sort of smaller seed potatoes left. So just to save them back a little bit, rather than digging a trench all the way, which is what I used to do, I've just decided to use a string, and I'm marking 4 foot from the centre of the last row to the centre of the next row. Now I'm just going along, just straddling the string so I don't compact the soil too much, because I want to rake it up when I've planted the row. Just get my tree planting spade, go down about 5 or 6 inches, and I'm just pulling the soil back, putting one potato in, and then just going along about 18 inches and doing the next one. So all I do once I've finished planting the row is just give it its first sort of little earth up, and this just helps to mark the row so I can see exactly where they are. Gives it a little bit of extra depth, and obviously I will continue to earth up right through May, 2 or 3 times, definitely as soon as any foliage comes out of the ground, because I don't want that to get hit by a frost. So I'll just earth up probably another couple of times. It will be through May, and then I'll stop when we're into the sort of first week of June. I'll probably stop then. Getting stones jammed in between the tines of the rake. But yeah, this just basically for now just marks the rows so I can see where they are. There you go, just like that. And then I've just got probably about the last 15 just small little tubers to go, so I should have plenty of room there to get them in. So that's 7 rows in total, 4 feet apart. This last row only had the last 6 little tubers in it, so there's 3 rows that are shorter, and then there's 4 full rows. So that's this whole little triangle part of my potato patch filled perfectly, so I'm really happy with that. So I've got 66 containers, 60 main crops, 6 second earlies, and I've got 2 of my no-dig beds as second earlies as well. They're part of my electroculture trial, so one bed is in the electroculture trial and another bed is just in a normal bed. So what it has left me is all of this side up here, which I had tilled over, all of this area, which is 15 metres long, and its widest, because it goes past this fence here, is 7 metres wide. But I have got some rhubarb and asparagus in there, but it's quite a usable area, 15 metres by about 5 or 6 then of usable space. Now what I'm going to do with that, because I'm growing a lot of squashes this year, winter squash and things like that, and they need quite a lot of room, and I was getting a little bit worried as to where to put them. So that's going to be ideal, and because I've got some compost left over from planting my potatoes in the containers, I should have enough to give each of those, you know, at least 3/4 of a wheelbarrow full of compost around each plant, and I can give them a bit of bloodfish and bone and some chicken pellets too, and then I'll liquid feed them for the rest of the year. But that's going to be a nice big squash patch then. I've just got to try and keep the rabbits out, because the rabbits do tend to get in here. I have got a bit of a winter project for next winter. I'm going to take all this laurel hedging out, because the rabbits come up and they sit and feel secure under there and scrape under the fence. So I'm going to redo the fencing. I've got a couple of rolls of wire already. I was going to do it this winter, but I just didn't get around to it because I had a really bad pulled hamstring. It just put me behind on everything. So I've put that off now till next winter. But I'm going to connect it to my other no-dig garden. So I will basically be doubling the size of my no-dig garden. And over time, I will turn all of this area into no-dig beds. Just bit by bit. Obviously I'm completely self-sufficient in compost now, and I actually have an excess. So if I can produce between 2 and 4 extra beds, no-dig beds each year, and perhaps start up this end up here because it's nice and square, and I can just come along and just slowly sort of turn this whole area into no-dig as well, with wood chip paths, the same as the other garden, because you know, I love the look of that, and it all works really well as well. So yeah, that's a project for next winter. But for the moment, that's all my potatoes in anyway. I've got 25 kilos of Desiree, 5 kilos of Wiltshire, 5 kilos of Kestrel. So 35 kilos total. Now, yields wise, I've had a bit of a research, and main crops, a rough estimate really is per kilo of seed potatoes, you should get 10 to 12 kilos, or was it 8 to 12 or something like that, I think I read, of harvested potatoes, and second earlies are about 6 to 8 per kilo, 6 to 8 kilos of harvested potatoes per kilo of seed. So if we just say went on, you know, 10 kilos, just so it's easy to work out, 35, so I'm looking at, you know, 350 kilos of potatoes. So that's definitely enough to keep me in potatoes, but I'm also looking at hopefully providing my mum and dad and my son, who's moved out now, with potatoes, and my mate who comes down and helps me. He tilled all this area for me. He's always helping me with stuff. He fixes my mowers and things like that. So I'd like to keep him in potatoes as well, or at least give him a nice bag for every weekend when he pops over. So that's the plan. Hoping to get around the 350 kilo mark. That's a good amount. But anyway, guys, that's the potatoes all in. I will do a little video in the next couple of weeks or so when I get my watering system set up for the containers. So I'll do a little video on that as well. But for now, that's the potatoes all in. Really happy with that. Couldn't have been on a nicer day either. It's been beautiful today. Take it easy, and we will see you next time, guys.